What's up guys, I'm Dean and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about the future of the DCU and some hints James Gunn has been dropping. Recently, IGN did a poll on their website about which characters their readers wanted to see appear in the DCU the most that hadn't been announced. They gave us the top 10 list, which you can see now, the top 10 being from 10th to 1st, John Constantine, Mr. Freeze, The Court of Owls, Zatanna, Jason Todd, Deathstroke, Brainiac, Lobo, Martian Manhunter, and Dick Grayson. Now, James Gunn put this post on his Instagram story and he said, would 5 of 10 do? Basically saying that 5 of these 10 characters are going to appear in the DCU soon. So, today I've made it my task to go through and figure out which 5 characters he's talking about. And I'm just going to go through the characters one by one, going from 1st to 10th, and then I'm going to rank them by how likely I think they're going to appear in the DCU and which projects I think they might appear in. Let's jump into it. So, the first character to talk about, and the character that IGN readers put in first place, is Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson. It does not surprise me this character is in first place. Of course, I would love to see a proper Nightwing in live action. I've seen bits of Titans, but you know, it's not the same when it's not a part of a cinematic universe with such a integral Batman character being involved as well. And I think a Nightwing is very likely. I think it's almost definitely going to happen at some point, and I think it will be sooner than later. I think it goes without saying that the character that I think Nightwing's most likely to appear in is the Brave and the Bold. I think there's a chance he couldn't appear in this if he's off in Bloodhaven and he could just be mentioned. He doesn't really have to tie into the story like I think a Tim Drake might have to. But I think he definitely exists within this universe already. I think it's just a matter of whether they're going to show us him earlier on rather than later. But I think he is very likely, and for now, as he's the only character we've talked about, he's in first place. Now, the character that is in second place is Martian Manhunter. Now, this is an interesting one, because there's no projects where you look at them and you go, ah, yes, this is definitely going to have Martian Manhunter in, but there's a few where it wouldn't surprise me if he appeared. I think he could appear in the Supergirl film, perhaps. I think he could appear in the Superman film, perhaps. The one that's most likely, though, I think is the Green Lantern Corps TV show, because it's supposed to be kind of a detective procedural that sets up the big bad for Chapter 1 of the DCU, is kind of what James Gunn described it as. I can see Martian Manhunter appearing here, because firstly, he is a detective, John Jones, when he hides on Earth as a detective. And number 2, I'm not sure what my thinking here is, and I don't have loads of evidence, but something tells me that the first big bad of the DCU is going to be the White Martians, because I think it is something interesting and new, and I think the White Martians will be cropping up sooner rather than later. And if you're doing the White Martians, then of course you've got to do Martian Manhunter. So I do think he is quite likely to appear, just not as likely as Nightwing. So he is in second place with Nightwing in first. The next character on the IGN list is Lobo, and this kind of surprises me, because I do see a lot of talk about Lobo online, partially because there's all these rumours that Jason Momoa is going to play him, but I'm not super desperate to see Lobo, but that doesn't mean I think he's not going to appear. I think it's very likely Lobo will appear, because it's a character James Gunn has kind of mentioned, and I think there's a few projects where he would fit in. I think he could be in Superman, he could be in Green Lantern, but because that show and a film seem to be more Earth-based, I think where he's most likely to appear is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the comic book itself, is about hunting down a bounty hunter, and if you wanted to make it more interesting, maybe you would switch that to Lobo. I don't think there's any harm there, but I think that's the kind of thing where Lobo could appear. And I don't know, I feel like just the vibes I'm getting from this overall idea of the DCU and the Jason Momoa stuff, I'm going to put Lobo in second place between Nightwing and Martian Manhunter. The next character that is on the list is a really exciting one, and that is Brainiac. I would love to see a Brainiac. Will it happen? It will happen eventually. I'm not sure if it's going to happen this early on. I think he is another potential for the big bad of the universe. I really think the first big bad of the universe, is down to 3 options, and that's being the White Martians, Brainiac, and like Lex Luthor / the Legion of Doom, something like that. I think Lex Luthor / the Legion of Doom could be really fun and interesting, but I think the invasion of Earth is always the easier way to go. And Brainiac would work because we haven't really had a proper live-action Brainiac, and he's such a beloved character, so I really think he could show up in also Supergirl. I can't really see him fitting in anywhere else for an extended period of time, and the fact that I can't see him appearing in anything for an extended period of time does move him down the ranking, so I'll put him in 3rd place, just ahead of Martian Manhunter. The next character on the list is Deathstroke, and I would love to see a Deathstroke after Justice League teased one, and obviously that one's never going to happen. I mean, bring Joe Manganiello back, he'd be great. Bring someone else in. I don't really care, just give us Deathstroke. I think that would be really fun, and I think there's a good solid chance he could be in The Brave and the Bold. I can see that happening because it's about assassins, and I think if you bring in an assassin from a different organization or just an outside mercenary, it could be really interesting. He could show up in Waller, or maybe Peacemaker season 2 perhaps. I don't really see how that would fit in totally, but I think he could work really well in The Brave and the Bold. Just there are no guarantees on that, and there's nothing that really makes me go, yes, he's definitely going to appear. So I'll put him in 4th place. Next up on the list, we have a Jason Todd, aka Red Hood. This is an interesting one because it's almost guaranteed that Jason Todd has existed in this universe if we're already getting Damian Wayne in The Brave and the Bold. So he has been a part of the Bat family, and he should have been killed by the Joker by this point in the universe. I don't think he's going to appear yet. I think in the future, you bring him in as Red Hood. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think at this stage in the universe, he's going to be dead, and he's going to have... he's going to be dead, and he's not going to come back yet. Because I think if you start The Brave and the Bold with the Red Hood already established, that's pretty interesting, but I think it gets rid of the most interesting part of Red Hood, and that's his reintroduction to the Bat family. I reckon in this universe he's been murdered, and he hasn't come back yet. That's my theory. I might be wrong, but I'm going to put the Red Hood in last place for now. The next character on the list is Zatanna, and I think this is a really interesting one. I think Zatanna is a character that is one of those characters like Booster God that I just can't believe they haven't really done anything with yet, because she's got such an interesting premise, and I think she's such a well-rounded character, and I think she would really add something unique to the universe. So I think definitely at some point we will see Zatanna. When? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure. If I had to guess where Zatanna was going to appear, I would have to say would be Swamp Thing. Although I don't see it happening massively. I think Swamp Thing does need a protagonist, because Swamp Thing is the monster in that film. You need a protagonist there. And I don't think it could be Zatanna. I think she could show up for a bit, but I just don't see it as likely as a couple other characters we're going to get to in a bit. So I'll put her in 4th place for now, because I definitely think she will make an appearance and should make an appearance, but when, I'm not so sure. Next character to talk about is not a character, in fact, but a group of characters, and that is the Court of Owls, the more recent Batman villains that we're yet to see in live action. I don't think they're going to appear in the DCU. I'm guessing when James Gunn is talking about 5 out of 10, he's talking about the DCU specifically and not the wider universe, because they could make an appearance in The Batman 2. That definitely wouldn't surprise me, just it wouldn't be my preference, because that is very similar to what we saw in The Batman. But the only place they would fit is Brave and the Bold, obviously, and I just don't see Brave and the Bold going in that direction, because I don't think it really fits the Damian Bruce storyline. So I don't see this one happening, at least for now. I'm putting the Court of Owls in last place. While we're talking about Batman villains, next up we've got Mr. Freeze. I would love to see Mr. Freeze in live action. Out of every character we've talked about so far, he's definitely up there for the one I want to see the most in live action. It would be Nightwing, Brainiac, and Mr. Freeze. He's just such a great villain, and I just want to see a live-action version of him done justice. He could appear in The Batman Part 2. That also wouldn't surprise me, but once again, as I just said, I don't think we're counting The Batman Part 2 here. I don't see him appearing yet, unfortunately, because, once again, his story doesn't complement that of Damian and Bruce's as much as some other Batman villains. I think you would go mercenaries, or you would go assassins. I think you'd go someone who's a strong physical threat, and then you'd have the argument about whether they should be killed or not. I think Mr. Freeze could make an appearance. I just don't see him being the lead antagonist of The Brave and the Bold, the only Batman project that has been announced. but I still think he's more likely than the Court of Owls, so I will put him in 8th place. The final character to talk about is a character I'd love to see in live action. I mean, I've seen him in live action a few times, but add him to the DCU. I think he'd be a great addition. That's, of course, John Constantine. I think John Constantine will make an appearance in the Swamp Thing. I think it would make a lot of sense, and I think he could be the protagonist. So I do think he's quite likely just because of that Swamp Thing. I think it makes a lot of sense to put him here, more so than Zatanna, who is a character I'd love to see, just I don't see it happening. With that said, I'm going to put John Constantine in 3rd place, which finishes our ranking. So, according to my estimates, I think the 5 characters we will see introduced in the DCU that James Gunn have hinted at is Nightwing, Lobo, John Constantine, Brainiac, and Zatanna. If any of these characters appeared, I won't complain. I think they all deserve a spot in the DCU. Just there's so many iconic DC characters and not enough time. You can't introduce all of them, unfortunately. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see who we get. Let me know who you think are the 5 characters that will be appearing down below. Please leave a like, that always helps out, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.